introduce one of our main headline guests for the event, Mr. Rob Liefeld. You all know him as the man who created X-Force, Cable, great run on the New Mutants, Deadpool. Who here is excited for the big movie coming out next year? Well, right on. Well, here's Deadpool's daddy, Marvel mutant guru Rob Liefeld. He's going to be spending the next hour with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Have a good time.
Thank you. Hey, thank you so much. I actually thought Jimmy had been doing this show for like 4 years. So this is like your fourth year? He's like, no, it's my third. And I got to tell you, this is my 10th convention of 2015. And I make sure and do all of the amazing shows. And I'll tell you why. Jimmy's a great promoter. His people are great. That's why you're having such a good time. But when I look at his guest list, when I was a kid, my favorite artists were George Perez, John Romita Jr. My favorite writer was Jim Shooter. Currently, my favorite artist is Steve McNiven. I love Mark Bagley. I mean, these are great shows, right? I mean, I love coming to comic book shows. So thank you for having me every year and tolerating me. So a year ago, when I was here, because I got to tell you, it's been an awesome year. You know, for 6 years, it's right there. Let's just talk about it. It's coming out on Valentine's Day. That's where you're all taking your dates, right? So that's why I already told my wife we'll be seeing it a sixth time on Valentine's Day. So the thing is, last year when I was here, and for 6 years, the creative team was trying to get a Deadpool movie going. And there's been an X-Force movie and a New Mutants movie, and Fox was in the process of deciding what was going to go forward. And so we were here last year, we were talking about all the potential and all the hype, and I mean, it was awesome. I mean, I never stopped believing. And you know, the director of Deadpool, Tim Miller, has been very gracious to me, and he said, you know, Rob, you almost stopped believing there at the end, and I said, yeah, it's true, buddy. Last fall, true story, I'm in my loft, we have a loft at the house, and a couple days prior, there was a Deadpool announcement on Twitter, and it was fake. It had been debunked. And my kids are very internet savvy, and my oldest son, who's 14 years old, yelled up to me. So this is a couple days after the fake announcement, and he says, Dad, they're making the Deadpool movie." And I was really like, I looked over the couch in the loft, and I said, son, no, that's not happening. I said, don't get excited, that's not true. That's not happening. Because everyone was waiting. They were waiting to hear. I mean, these things, when they happen, they happen. It had happened like 24 hours prior that they gave it the green light. But my son said, no, Dad, it's happening. And I said, son, I hate to break this to you, buddy. It's not happening. We still got a ways to go. And, you know, it's really getting down the wire. And he runs up and he shoved his phone in my face. Dad, it's on the 20th Century Fox Twitter feed. They're making Deadpool. And I think I jumped. And then I think I cried, and then I jumped, and then I cried, and my buddy Murat, who's in the room there, he was actually there, and he got excited too. Murat Michaels over in Artist Alley, and he said, dude, I'm so happy for you, and I'm like, oh my gosh. The guys that I was happiest for are the two screenwriters who wrote this screenplay in 2010, so when it comes out in 2016, that'll be 6 years, and I gotta be honest, everything that made the script so unique is still there, it's still intact. It wasn't, you know, one of these stories where they changed it around. They really fought down to the R rating. When I first read the Deadpool, and I'm sorry kids, I have kids too, and my daughter's not seeing it. You know, I've had a lot of, in all my different convention appearances this year, a lot of dads have come up to me and said, well, this is going to be Little Billy's first R-rated movie. And I'm like, okay. Little Billy's going to have a little education at the Cineplex. But now, I mean, in Jurassic Park, I mean, or these PG-13 movies, they're throwing around F-bombs and cursing, so I think the standards have gone crazy. But Deadpool's pretty hardcore, it's pretty awesome. When I first read it, I thought this is a Quentin Tarantino. This is the voice of Quentin Tarantino on a comic book movie, which is perfect because Deadpool is more crime-oriented, action-oriented, obviously, and Tarantino has got a great sense of humor. So, I can't believe that that's the movie they shot. They wrapped about a month ago, and they're in post-production, and will probably be in post for, through the fall, and then I can't, come January, come the new year, I think Star Wars will probably rule the box office for probably 6 weeks, right? I mean, it'll be a long time. And then maybe Deadpool can come in and knock it off like in week 7 or 8, whenever that's going to be. But, so it's going to be a fun year. What I kind of backtrack, because I'm going to get questions and answers, and I come out to you. I'm going to undo this, I hope. I think I can undo this. Okay, I didn't electrocute myself. Everything's good. I'm just going to for you who is this Liefeld guy, Deadpool, blah, blah, blah. I was fortunate that when I graduated high school, 1 year later, I broke into the comic book business. I have drawn a gazillion comics. I have written a gazillion comics. I have been very fortunate. Comics are my passion. They are my absolute obsession. I love good movies. I love good TV, but nothing beats a great comic. So my focus has always been comic book oriented. When I got my opportunity, they gave me a book called The New Mutants that was going to get canceled. And I said, awesome. The reason I took it, they actually offered me X Factor, which was the 5 original X-Men, and I turned that down. But then they offered, and they said, what are you, crazy? You should do X Factor. This is the original X-Men. And I said, I'm not good enough to do that. I'd be following some great guys, Jack Kirby, Walt Simonson, Paul Smith. So I said, I'll take The New Mutants, which was struggling. It was kind of a book that was not connecting with the readers. It was the lowest selling X-Men book. And look, when I grew up, X-Men was #1. And some of you guys out there, I know you remember when the X-Men was the top book. And the X-Men family, before all this, who owns what, Disney, Marvel, Fox, you're my favorite, you're not my favorite, blah, blah, blah crap happened. On its own, when comics had to fight for themselves, X-Men was the tops. But New Mutants was it was the only X-Men book without an X in it, and it wasn't selling well. So they let little Robbie Liefeld go crazy. And Cable was the first instrumental character I was able to create. They hadn't had a really formidable teacher character. The reason I bring up Cable is if Cable didn't work, New Mutants is canceled and there's never Deadpool. Sorry. So it was important. Cable worked, sales went up, and they let me write the book. They were like, Rob, you got a lot of ideas, we like the direction. And so in New Mutants 98, first issue that I wrote, and by wrote, I generated all the stories. I read now on Twitter, on Facebook, like Marvel has editorial meetings where everyone sits around a table. I'm way too hyperactive, ADD, I could have never done that. The guys that I grew up loving, Frank Miller, Walt Simonson, Elektra, Beta Ray Bill, all these killer characters, the New Teen Titans by George Perez, they weren't born in a committee. Those were creators creating at their drawing board, and that's what I tried to do. And I got really fortunate, and I got the job writing New Mutants. So my first issue writing, I always tell people, because I can remember that day very clearly, I'm like, wow, I got to really make this work. And there's 3 characters on the cover of New Mutants 98. Deadpool is the most prominent, then Domino, and things worked out very well for those 2. Gideon is in the back wearing a rainbow-colored coat, and things didn't go well for him. He did not, make the cut. But on the success of 98, which we sold a gazillion copies of, again, before all this other movies and TV stuff pushed up, they saw sales turn around, and then I started fighting that this book really wasn't New Mutants anymore, it should be renamed. And eventually, with the marketing department on my side, we changed the book to X-Force. And I still remember my good buddy Todd McFarlane going, what's an X-Force, bud? And I'm like, well, it's a new book. People never heard of no X-Force, bud. And I'm like, I think it's going to do well. Bud, who are these characters? And to this day, he was right. Wolverine and Spider-Man were well known. X-Men, Spider-Man were the tops. It is the thing that puts the biggest smile on my face was that I was able to have a #1 comic, sell 5 million copies of characters that nobody ever heard before. Cable, Domino, Shatterstar, Feral, Deadpool. So it was a lot of fun. And that kind of changed our whole career. Sales were crazy. And me and my compadres at the time, we were all crazy. Todd McFarlane is crazy. He is more crazy than me. I am semi-crazy. He's full-on crazy. Jim Lee is not crazy, which is why he didn't like hanging out with us. Mark Silvestri's got crazy in him, Eric Larson's got crazy in him, so the crazies went away and we formed Image Comics. And that is another milestone achievement. And we met a little boy from Kentucky named Robert Kirkman, who used to drive to see us at our signings in the 90s, which is awesome. And Robert was given the green light on Walking Dead, and obviously now he has become the face of Image Comics, rightfully so. Every one of my friends, my kids and our friends, they're bigger Walking Dead TV fans than we are, because I'm more of a Walking Dead comic book fan, but I love the show. I love the show, Robert. I know you're listening. I know you're following this on Twitter. I love your show. But people, I mean, obviously, Walking Dead is a huge success, but you don't get to Walking Dead without Image Comics. You don't get to Image Comics without Spider-Man, X-Force, you know, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, and our big bag of crazy. So I've done a lot of stuff, been around. So immediately, Cable, Deadpool, X-Force, they started appearing in video games. In the 90s, they were action figures. They were in cartoons, and it was just a great time to be a creator in comics. And I'm just thankful that 28 years in, I'm still doing it. I have new books out now on the marketplace, a book called The Covenant, a book called Bloodstrike. I'm still publishing books called Supreme and Prophet and all this stuff that I started. But anyway, I like to open it up to you guys. So now you know, okay, that's Liefeld, I'm in the right panel. And I'm going to, what I can't see really well, but I'm gonna let you guys answer questions. We wouldn't have that trailer, would we? No? Oh, okay. As I come out here, we're gonna play this little goofy trailer. And get your questions ready.
Thanks, Skippy. Where are my manners? Introductions. Call me Deadpool.
Oh, hello there. I bet you're wondering why the red suit. Well, that's so bad guys can't see me bleed.
You're insane!
Okay, so that gives you, when I mentioned cartoons and video games, you get to see a little of that. Before I take a question, the one thing I gotta tell you, I can actually go straight to this picture. Okay, when it comes to the Deadpool movie, I really can't say anything. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I like being friends with all those guys. Tim Miller is always telling me, Rob, we have our ninjas all over you. I talked to somebody at Fox last week and they're like, oh no, we watch everything you say. You've been good. I'm like, okay. But here's the deal. This picture, 3 weeks before it appeared on the net, it's a Sunday afternoon, I'm watching the NBA playoffs, and I'm just randomly checking, and one of the producers said, hey Rob, and sends me, says, I thought you'd like this, and it's this photo. And they said, Rob, we thought you'd like this really cool action shot because we've been doing a lot of the humor stuff, and we thought you'd really enjoy this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And he's like, but you can't show anybody, that better not show up anywhere, and I need to tell you that needs to stay in your email box. I mean, he sent me a follow-up. Rob, that's for your eyes only. And I'm like, but you're releasing it? Yeah, soon. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna lie, I thought, it's an awesome shot. I mean, every time I look at it, I'm like, whoa! But it's a great stunt, and the stunt guys on this movie are killer. But every day I would check my Twitter and my Facebook, have they released it? Have they released it? And then I start seeing Jared Leto as Joker, and I'm like, oh, come on. Can't we get a Deadpool action shot? And then I'd see Harley Quinn, she looked really good. And then I'd be like, hey, Deadpool, is he ever coming? And then one day, whoa, that killer shot. Because I knew people would just dig it. But that's a great example. I had to sit on that for 3 weeks. And like I said, I like knowing everybody. And so when you ask me questions, I probably can't answer those directly. Because they want you to be surprised. So anyway, if you guys have any questions and you want to ask me stuff about comics and creation and blah, 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 I'll come to you and you can ask me and I'll answer. Has anyone got a question? Okay, right here. There we go.
Just wanted to know how you got in with the Hip Hop Family Tree comic, that exclusive comic with Pisker, Eddie Pisker.
Okay, this is awesome. Back in the 90s, some of you are like, the 90s? I was born in 2005. I see a lot of you young kids. Okay, so back in the 90s, And again, my buddy, the guy who can verify almost everything I say is Marat Michaels. He hasn't worked for me for several years, so he has no financial reason. I'm not buying him off. He was just there, and he's honest. He was at my studio with me, and we were crazy white boys who were in love with hip hop culture. And I see that the Straight Outta Compton trailer, and my hair stands on my. That's like my youth. I mean, I was 20, 21. I mean, I was perfect age. Well. So I'm a huge. We would always blast all that rap music and NWA in the studio, and then I went to. Now they didn't have. Remember, people before 2005, the internet did not exist like it does now. You didn't get messages. You didn't text. There were no iPhones. It was hello on a cord. And so anyway, long story short, nobody knew that anybody else knew anybody unless it happened in person. Youngblood #1, the first Image Comics launched, and I went to Golden Apple in Los Angeles and to do the store signing, and I was amazed. I mean, my family will tell you when I pulled up, I got nervous just like I do before every panel. It never gets, I'm always nervous, and I saw all these people, and we signed for 7 hours straight. There was a couple thousand people at Golden Apple, but I sat there at Golden Apple in Los Angeles, and I was signing, and then I look up, and this guy goes, "Hey, Rob, how you doing, man? It's Easy." And I said, "Well, that's Easy-E. Easy-E from NWA is at my signing." And he's like, "Yo, what's up, dog? What's up?" And I was like, "Dude, like, it's Easy." And he's like, "Hey, man, can you take a minute?" And I'm like, there's still 500 people I gotta sign. He's like, "Hey, man, I talked to the owner of the stop and the store, and he said I could take a minute with you." And I was like, "Dude, I'm done. Put my stuff down." He's like, "Yo, come on down to my car." Now, this Golden Apple was right on Melrose, and you could not park your car on Melrose. It is a highway, lanes. There's no parking. I walk out in front of the store, his Mercedes is parked on the curb in the red illegally. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm a real big fan, man. I want to do comics with you." And I'm like, "Dude, name the place. Let's do comics." And this is I have a buddy who owned a comic store in Orange County, and he was with me, and he's even more upper crust and white than I am. So he was, "Who's NWA? What's this?" And Easy pops open his, help me, trunk, and dude, it's a sea of CDs and machine guns. And I was like, "Oh crap! Easy-E is armed to the teeth." Dude, Uzis, and my white friend was like, "Oh, all right." Like, and he's like, "Hey man, I want you to have some CDs." And he's pushing the machine guns aside. "Yeah, I want you to have this. By the way, the question was, how did you end up in the hip hop culture family tree, which is a comic by Ed Piskor, which celebrates hip hop, and he did a special comic. He saw me talk about this in an interview, and he illustrated it. But so Easy said, "Yo, man, I want to do a comic. Come on." I took the CDs, and I was like, "Look at those machine guns." I'm like, "That is fine." But he came in, he got his comic signed, I got my CDs. He said, "I want your number." And then Easy would start calling me more than my mom. It'd be 10 a.m. in the morning, ring, "Hey, Rob, it's Easy, what we do?" And so I actually did a page of designs, a couple pages, for a book called The Hood. And I was looking at them yesterday. Cool designs, 4 characters. I was really just drawing what he was giving me. But so yeah, so Easy-E of NWA with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, huge comic book fan. Now I'll tell you, New York Comic Con, the guy that runs New York Comic Con, and a guy from Wizard. It was 2008. I was sitting there drawing in Artist Alley, and in New York Comic Con above in the convention center, there's all these rooms with glass windows where they're conducting interviews, and MTV was actually interviewing RZA, and Method Man. And then I see against the glass, I'm drawing right here, they're up there, and I see Method Man go like this up on the window. And I'm like, "Did I do something?" And dude, next thing, giant Easy was like this tall. Method Man is like this tall. "Yo, Rob, what up, this Method Man?" And I'm like, "Awesome!" So the hip hop culture has always loved comics, and but everybody loves comics. Come on. But they were the energy. Obviously, if you're a fan and you love the music, and it was fueling us. So that was a great. Now here's, for those of you who don't know, Easy-E died about a year and a half later. He got sick and died, and it was very sad. And I had a conversation before he got very ill with him, but he said, you may not be hearing from me for a while. I'm not doing well. But that's the answer to your story. It's very fun remembering it. I will never get over the Uzis in the trunk of the Mercedes, because you're like, wow. So when I see these trailers and I see how hardcore these guys are, I'm like, do not doubt for a minute. They had machine guns in the trunk, okay? Saw it with the CDs. Here, have one of these and have some bullets. Okay, who has another question? I'm gonna go Mania Deadpool. You gotta stand up if you're gonna talk to me, man. Don't hurt me first.
Well, who's a character that you would like to take a hold of that you've never taken hold of?
The question is, who is a character I would like to have taken a hold of that I haven't worked on before? You know what? The list is so long, and I'm going to tell you, I've rededicated myself to my own catalog of characters because I keep meeting fans who ask me about them all the time. Youngblood, Bloodstrike, Brigade. The thing is, though, sure, you grew up in comics and you love comics. When I was a kid, there was a comic called Commandy by a guy named Jack Kirby that is one of my favorite comics, but it's for DC, so I doubt that'll happen. DC and I have just never gotten along. We're like bad dates. We kind of go out, we're like, I don't like you either. And so anything by DC doesn't really work out. Great people over there, we just don't get along. I've always been a Marvel guy. I've always gotten along better with all the Marvel guys, sorry. I love DC though. Trust me, I buy DC. DC was important in my youth, but like the last year, what I've tried to do, because I'm old, and I do have favorites, but the reason I come to these shows is because I'm the youngest guy on the floor, because I'm like, Jim Shooter, you're old, and George Perez, you're old, so then I get to be old, I get to be young again, but in reality, I got less in front of me than I do behind me. But, so stuff like Flash Gordon, or the Phantom, or all the King Syndicate characters, I just try and do a cover. G.I. Joe, I've done like 3 G.I. Joe covers. That's so awesome. I would love to do a interior G.I. Joe story someday. I mean, so there's a long list. Star Wars, stuff like that. But I think everybody, you want to eventually work on your favorites, but I've been very fortunate. And again, I cannot tell you, when you're a kid and you draw characters in your sketchbook, and then you give them to the company. Now, here's the deal. Back then, there were good deals. I heard, the only reason I filled up all those characters at Marvel was because they gave me a deal that said you would get a percentage of this for the rest of your life. And, when you're 20-something years old, you're like, hey, if this hits, that's good. And I always say, if I could go back in a time machine with Marty McFly, I would give 1991 Rob Liefeld the biggest hug. I'd be like, you did good for the family. And he'd be like, who are you? You're old now, and your hair is thinning. But they had a good character sharing agreement. And so that's why I think I created like 50 characters for Marvel, because I was incentivized to do so. So it wasn't like, and look, the creators before that time were not as fortunate, and I feel for them. The situation was different. It's just like when I read about the cast of Gilligan's Island gets nothing for repeats, you go, oh, that's hard. Or the Brady Bunch. Business changed. But then it got to I could own 100% of my own stuff, and that's what I did, and it was very successful and fortunate in that. So anyway, that's the long and the short of your answer. Anybody else got a question? You right there, buddy. You want to come out here? Give it to me. It's a hard question, though.
Hey, I just want to say I'm a huge fan first, and also I look forward to Bloodstrike. I'm excited for that. And I just want to know what happened to the Youngblood cartoon, because that looked really cool. I was looking at the pictures.
This is a great story. So, Youngblood cartoon, I financed all myself. These bunch of animators from Warner Brothers left Warner's and came to me and said, Rob, you did in comics what you did it yourself. Would you finance us? And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I wrote the checks and got some of the top. These guys are the guys who are doing these direct-to-DVD Justice Leagues right now. Great animators, really talented guys, names that you would recognize in the credits. And I hired them. They had their own company called Roustabout Studio. Long story short, they did about 5 minutes. They did a trailer and then a 3-minute short for me. CBS was the company that was in the market for it. And CBS was run by like a 75-year-old lady. And they were last in the ratings. And, she was like, no, we got to do Youngblood. And then I had financed this. They were going to give me distribution. Long story short, because it's not worth a lot of time, because the old lady And she is a silver-haired old lady, and she kept showing me our awards. Look at all the awards I won for Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. He's in jail now, right? I mean, like Fox is kicking your butt. In 1992, Fox with X-Men and with Power Rangers was dominating. So we had Youngblood, we had the footage, and then she kind of started telling me how things were going to be, and then there may be a talking dog with Youngblood. And at that point, I said, "We're done. I'll eat the $500,000 I invested into this company because I'm going to be on for 1 year, and I'm going to be canceled." And I remember Jim Lee called me because he was talking to CBS. He goes, "Dude, I heard you walked away, man. They gave me the deal." I said, "Good luck to you, Jim." Cut to, we had an image meeting a couple months later, and Jim was like, "I need to get to your fax machine. I need to get the ratings. I need to get the ratings for Wildcats. We're waiting to see you, otherwise we're getting canceled." And I was like, "You're getting canceled. It's on CBS. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Jim. It wouldn't have been my fault, but I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to live through it." Yeah, so that was, you're good. You're too young to know that story, but you've seen it on YouTube, and that's a good question. Everyone else is going to go give it a few more clicks on YouTube. It's a good clip. Those guys are good. That action is good. It would have been a great cartoon, but CBS, she just showed her old lady varicose veins, and the whole thing is, she got fired a year later. And sometimes the move you don't make is better than the move you make. Sometimes you just got to say no. And I've always looked at it as, I'm a young man. Right now, when I see old Stan Lee, I don't know what he takes, how many energy drinks, but I see him at all the shows. I know Stan, and he's 93 years old. When Spider-Man #1 from Sony came out, I said to my wife, I said, "Joy, do you realize that Stan is 81 years old? It's taken 81 years for him to see this big budget movie." And I joked to her, I said, "That'll be me and you on walkers going down the, for one of my image titles." And it may still be, but you got to kind of keep those cards close. Yeah, as a creator, don't give away your opportunities. Honestly, I know a lot of you in here want to make comics. It is, get some advice, talk to a creator. I had a very seasoned creator call me a month ago. I'm always happy to give advice because I've been through a lot. I mean, I've seen every facet of this business. I've been a publisher, a writer, an artist, an inker. I've run a coloring house. I've done a million Hollywood deals, each one kind of inches forward. Long story short, get some advice, but don't give away your rights. Those are valuable. And you don't want to end up paying a lawyer millions of dollars to get them back for you at the end of the day. I know a friend who did that, and the lawyer was like, "Okay, at the end of the day, you get $25,000, and $2 million was in my lawyer's fees." That hurts. So Rob Liefeld, 47 years old, whatever the date today is in 2015 is telling you, try and hold on to your stuff. Don't give it away if you own it. Marvel and DC really aren't in that business anymore of letting you create characters, so that's not even an open opportunity. So anybody have another question? Right here.
Have you ever had a conversation with Mark Wolfman and George Perez about the Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson thing?
Okay, so this is about Slade Wilson, Wade Wilson, and I love it. I love that we get to talk about this because it's ridiculous. Marv Wolfman and George Perez are my buddies. I took Marv and George to dinner when I was 16. Me and my buddy Hank Canals, who's actually a VP of DC Comics now. If you look in your comics, every comic says Hank Canals. We were teenage buddies, and we loved George and Marv. And we would go to, if they were in Southern California, which they both did a lot, we'd take them out. Here's my thing with Deathstroke and Deadpool. It cracks me up! And I just saw Deathstroke, Deadpool, and Deadshot, because I want to bring Deadshot into this, out there taking a picture. These costumes were great. Deadpool was, again, created as a mercenary, inspired more by Boba Fett than anybody, because when I was 9 years old when Star Wars came out, and I hold it against everybody who wasn't a kid when that movie came out. Everyone who's seen it, otherwise, you missed it. It was a cultural, like, what? There's never been anything like it. I just tell people, if you want to know, go back to Logan's Run, which the year before was supposed to be the movie. And in the comic books, Marvel did a great comic of Logan's Run, and they had blasters, great artwork. George Perez, by the way, drew that comic. But then the movie came, and to this day, I remember going, huh? Logan got his gun out, and he pointed it, and he shoots it, and if you watch it, 4 little tendrils of fire go, shh. And then there's a time release delay behind the guy's head, and it goes, and the rock, the wall kind of shatters. You're like, that's the laser fire? And you don't understand. If you saw that in the theater, and then 1 year later, sat down for Star Wars, and George knew what he was doing. He wanted to show you right from the get-go. When 3PO and R2 go across that hall, and it's like, bullets of lasers. You're like, this has never happened before. Like your little 9-year-old brain was like, oh. Star Wars was my babysitter. Every Saturday and Sunday, 2 showings. My parents would say, see you, Robbie. See you on Monday. We'll pick you up. They were just like, we got it covered. George Lucas is the best babysitter. But Boba Fett he appeared in a cartoon. And I tell people, he also, so I was 10 years old, and they said, if you collect these action figures and cut 6 proof of purchases out and send them in, you will get the Boba Fett action figure. No one knew who Boba Fett was. He just was a visual. Standing there, plastic toy, cool name, Boba Fett. And they said, you will play a major part in the upcoming Star Wars sequel. And then he was on the Christmas cartoon that George will never release. And he rode on a dinosaur. But the thing is, again, mind blown. But mercenary, cool guy, mysterious, bounty hunter. And I tell people, man, I was a teenager when I saw Return of the Jedi, and I'm like, wait, in 2 movies, in 4 years, that's how Boba Fett went out? Like, he was never cool, but he looked cool, and he sounded cool, and I bought into him being cool to this day. People love him, I love him still too, even though he fell into the mouth of a crab. But the thing is, Deathstroke, I'll just tell you this, we can put I wish we had the picture side by side. Deathstroke, behind his mask, is an old Army veteran that served in the Vietnam or the Korean War, one of the two, it doesn't matter. And he submitted himself to a super soldier serum to become a super soldier in the Teen Titans origin. He, in his first outing, he has an all-black mask, and he wears chainmail. And for 12 years, even after Deadpool, he wears chainmail up here, and then he has Buccaneer boots, big thick Buccaneer boots and thick Buccaneer gloves. Do you know who else has big Buccaneer gloves and boots and chainmail? That would be Captain America. Deathstroke was an evil version of Captain America, and if somehow you make that leap to Deadpool, then you could do better math than I can. Because I'm like, Deadpool was inspired by Boba Fett as his identity, but visually, and I've told this a million times and I'll keep telling it, one of my best friends was Todd McFarlane. The best thing about Todd McFarlane is he is a great coach and motivator. And he would sit there going, hey, Robbie, you drawing all those new mutants? All those teenagers? I just did 2 pages before lunch of Spider-Man. Big eyes, big oval, some webs, I'm done. You're measuring the eyes and the nose and drawing the hair and, but I'm laughing at you. And I'm like, I'm gonna get you, Todd McFarlane. I'm gonna get one of those easy to draw characters. I'm gonna get you. So I literally was like, ha ha ha, here's my Spider-Man ripoff. And it's funny, people who aren't poisoned, I get kids, all the kids born in the 2000s, they come to my table and they're like, hey man, why'd you rip off Spider-Man? And I'm like, yeah, you got it, because you're not poisoned by the internet. Deathstroke fans are funny. They're mad that Deathstroke isn't as popular as Deadpool. And they're trying hard. But they're like, oh, he's a ripoff of Deadpool. He's not. Believe it if you want. Who cares? There's a reason George and I have never had a conversation, because he gets it too. He's like, yeah, Deathstroke, no. So, but it's a fun story to tell. But the Todd McFarlane, if he didn't taunt me, because he was right, man. I put in long hours drawing all, and you'll see in the first New Mutants '98, there's a couple of big giant ovals, big black eye. You know how fast that is to do? Eyes closed, boom, 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 fill in the black, done. Deadline met. I was writing, drawing, and inking my own book. Deadpool was like my new best friend. Oh, need to do a fast page? Couple Deadpool pages. The reason Deadpool's in almost every issue of X-Force also because the fans demanded it. True story. New Mutants '98, when it hit, 5 days later Marvel calls because they had just gotten the first wave of mail. I got a box delivered to me about from here to here and a little higher than this. I thought they were delivering me a machine washer. And the guy goes, oh man, mailman was pissed. He had to come up a couple floors to my office. Yeah, I got this box for you right here. And when it hit, it was kind of soft. But they're like, tons of fan mail. And Bob Harris, who was editing New Mutants, said, Rob, we have never gotten email. We have never gotten mail on a character like we have on this Deadpool. Can you put him in issue 100 right now? Rob, can you do that? I said, Bob, issue 100 was sent out to you yesterday. You should be getting it tomorrow. I FedExed it 2 days. If you did 1 day, Marvel would cancel your plan. So 2 days. And he's like, oh, because Rob, people like this character. They want it. And I tell people, X-Force and New Mutants was the one with all the momentum. Just go back in time and go, okay, so X-Force sold 5 million copies. Then why aren't they on the cover of their own second issue? Why is Deadpool on the cover of X-Force 2? That's because Marvel's like, we need Deadpool on that cover, Liefeld, and we don't care what you say. X-Force 2 opens with a 10-page Deadpool story, and that is literally because the fans of the time demanded it. And just like networks and movie studios, they like to give you what you like, and you tell them what you like, and they go, this is good. And so I was, honestly following marching orders, and was very fortunate that he took. And I still think Deadpool in X-Force number 2, that is a fun. I mean, we were able to open it up, have a lot of fun, and again, he was in like either every other issue or every issue after that for a year. So again, that's because of fan demand. Because people come to me now and they go, "What do you think of Deadpool now that he's popular?" I'm like, "Now that he's popular, what?" That trading card is in 1 million copies of X-Force. 1 million. If I look today at Deadpool sales, he sells 50,000. Love it, awesome, not a million. Okay, we got another question? I feel bad. I'm going to go back and then I'm going to come to you, okay? Yes, sir. You were born in the 2000s. See, I know this.
What are some writing tools you might give? I don't know how to say it, but writing tools.
You want some help?
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a question I get a lot of time. And this young man, what's your name? Dylan wants to know writing advice for getting into comics. I'm going to tell you this, and Marvel editors will tell you this. The head of the Marvel talent search, his name is C.B. Cebulski. I know him, he's good, but he will tell you the exact same thing I'm going to tell you right now. You need to find an artist because it's a comic book business. That doesn't mean you're out of a job. You need to go on the internet or with a friend and find a buddy and draw a 6 to 7 page story that you write and he draws and you submit it as your own work. Now, ideally, you should, in my opinion, make it your own characters. So people go, hey, that's pretty good. Dylan and his buddy, and put them, it can't be a fight scene. Start it in a room, he's getting up in his bed, he looks out the window, there's a plane crashing, your character goes into action. That's what they want to see. They want to see some kind of change in mood and then shift to action. But it is a comic book business, it is a visual business, this is not novels. If you take the pictures away from comics, I'm not buying them. And I never did. And I lived at the 7-Eleven and bought comic books because they had awesome artwork to go with the cool stories. So to anybody in here, young, old, get a collaborator, because writers, you want to be seen and heard, submit something that says, this is mine and my buddies, I wrote it, he drew it, this is our concept. There is no better advice than that. It doesn't, because most guys, if you come up with a typed story, I've unfortunately seen editors, they don't have time to read that. Make it visual. And if you draw yourself, fantastic. I said I'd come to you. What's up?
Who is your favorite character you've drawn?
My kids ask me this all the time too. It's never going to change. 80 years old, in the casket, on my deathbed, it will be Wolverine. He is the best character that I ever encountered in my entire life. He changed my comic book. People forget. And I will give you this, and this is the absolute 100% truth. Do I have a lot of time? Am I running out of time? Okay, I can tell this faster. People forget the X-Men was a book that was recycled. By recycled, I mean for 3 years it was reprint stories. They stopped generating new X-Men stories. They kept it for trademark purposes. It was on the newsstand, and I, being a kid who bought my comics from the newsstand, would go and go, oh, this is a reprint of X-Men again. With Giant Size X-Men number 1, actually I'm getting ahead of myself. The X-Men, as a team, were semi-wimpy. I was a huge Avengers fan prior to this. Prior to 1975, the Avengers was my thing. Why? And you look at my characters, Cable, Shatterstar, Deadpool, Domino, everybody has weapons. The Avengers, to this day, Thor, Hammer, Hawkeye, Bow and Arrow, Cap, Shield, Swordsman. Yes, there's a character called Swordsman. If you haven't seen the movie, if you only seen the movies and you don't read the comics, there's a character called the Swordsman and he carries swords. But they had lots of weapons. Black Widow had her stingers. Everybody had weapons. I mean, Iron Man had his armor. The X-Men would intimidate you with Angel and his beautiful wings flapping. Like the Tooth Fairy, and then Beast had big hands and big feet to intimidate with you. Hey, I'm the Beast. And then I tell people the other 3 characters, Cyclops, Jean, and Iceman, would have powers that amount to this. Ice, this for raise, and this for telekinesis. And that's not exciting. It's not exciting on the page. Then one day, they put Wolverine, and what does Wolverine have? He has 3 knives on each hand. He sticks them into people and pulls them out, and then smokes a cigar. I mean, when you're 9 years old, you're like, I like this guy. And so every time that they would have him like wrangle with Cyclops, and Cyclops said, "That's my girl." "Hey, Bob, that's my girl." You'd go, "Oh, don't mess with him, Cyclops, because you're gonna do this, and he's gonna cut you." Wolverine was a seminal character in comics, and I mean, obviously, he rocketed to the top, and I was the right age, and I remember when Hugh Jackman was first cast, and that was the internet in its early stages, and people were like, "They can't cast Hugh Jackman, he's too tall." I'm like, really? And I mean, talk about a guy, when I think of Wolverine, I see Hugh Jackman. Just like when I think of Iron Man now, I think of Robert Downey Jr., and when you see Deadpool, you will think of Ryan Reynolds, period, end of story. It's that good of a performance, it's fantastic. There, I stuck in a movie thing. Yeah, it's always gonna be Wolverine. He looks cool with his mask and without his mask. You know what I mean? Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, it'll always be Wolverine. He's a great character. He's my favorite character. And when I created Cable and I created Deadpool, part of what I was trying to do was follow his. They had made him very mysterious. If you were in real time as I was following Wolverine, they only gave you a little bits of him at a time. And so with Deadpool and Cable, it was always, what's the mystery, what's the story? Because that draws readers in and creates interest. So again, that was a big influence. You got some costume on, you're good to go, let's go. Are you a fan of the opera? Okay, do you sing? Okay.
I was wondering, in Ultimate X-Men, how do you feel about Wolverine being Cable?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Robert Kirkman, I love you, man. Okay, so if you read Ultimate X-Men about 7 years ago, Robert Kirkman called me up and he had gotten the job. Oh, he's gonna be so mad at me. And he called me, and I was actually out by the pool with my kids. Summer. "Hey man, we got a chance to look at Ultimate X-Men yet?" And I'm like, no, he's cleaned up that Kentucky accent. Good for him. Back then it was more, and I said, "No, what is it?" He's like, "Wow, I don't know, it's time for you to see it. You know, I'll have the editor send you." And he sent John Barber, the editor, sent me Ultimate X-Men 50 or whatever, or 75, and it had the Ultimate X-Men version of Cable, and then Cable turns and says, "'Cause I'm Wolverine," and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is horrible." And Robert's like, "Do you like it?" And I'm like, "Will we still be friends if I don't?" I guess the best thing is the Ultimate Universe is going away, right? So I don't have to deal with that anymore. Oh, Kirkman, what's up? Zombies. Okay, anybody else over on this side? Because I've been favoring the middle and this side. Oh, I'll come back to you. You're a nice guy. See, you caught me. And no one else raised their hand.
All right, let's say it's your last day on Earth. What will be the one comic you like to read before you die?
Last day on Earth, one comic that I'm going to read before I die is The Days of Future Past, X-Men 141. I go back to it all the time. It is one of the best single comics ever written, drawn, inked, colored. It is fantastic. That is my answer. It will never not be my answer. So somebody in the back, we're running down. They're gonna kick me out. You, all right. You're dressed like Deadpool, right? It's dark in here. I can't see. And I'm old. That's the sound of me panting.
If Cable shows up in a New Mutants movie, which actor do you want to play?
Oh man, Cable. Here's the deal. You hear these announcements: New Mutants movie, X-Force movie. It's awesome. It's great that they're finally catching up to the catalog and getting to the '90s stuff. In my opinion, yes, it is inevitable. Cable will be there. People send me okay, here's the deal. The guy from Avatar. Let me do this now. He's awesome. Is his name Stephen Lang? Stephen Lang, who was in Avatar. Everyone's like, he's Cable. And you know what? 15 years ago, he would have been an awesome Cable. But Hollywood likes young people, and they like to put them into these slave contracts and watch them age for 15 years. Ask Chris Evans. I mean, he's like, I'm Captain America still, and I can't renegotiate? They get Robert Downey Jr. made $100 million off the Avengers. That's a lot of money. Studios would rather play the new kid. So when they go Stephen Lang, first of all, Stephen Lang is old. He is not going to make it to a third Cable movie. They will not sign him for that reason. So please stop bugging me on Twitter and saying, "You're wrong, Liefeld, Stephen Lang." Look, you know what? There's a ton of great acting. Cable's a great role. I tell this is 100% fact. It is historical fact. Cable is the last, biggest Marvel character that has not been on screen. He has been in 500 comics. He has the #2 best-selling comic book of all time. He's carried his own series. Cable, I tell this to people, he's coming, and he's going to be there for a long time when he gets there, so they're going to have to cast him right. I don't want to tell you my names because I don't want this crowd to groan at me. But if you go through my Twitter and stuff, you can see sometimes the people I like. But it's not going to be Stephen Lang. He's a nice guy. He can play Cable's dad. But, you know, but like, hey, son, you got a scar too. But Hollywood wants him young. Don't be surprised if it's the guy who played Mad Max. Not him. I mean, he's not up for Cable. But what's his name? Tom Hardy. It's going to be somebody that age. They're gonna put pepper in his hair, and he's gonna have gray hair, and you're gonna have him for 15 years, so he'll be 50 when his last movie hits, not 72. That's not happening. I think. What do I have, Tony? 5. Okay, I can still take questions. See, you ask me, I'll tell you. I have no filter. Who's over here? Who's got a question? Somebody. Okay, dude, you painted your face like Deadpool. Nice. Everyone, look. He actually didn't wear a mask. He painted it. And Harley, when I see you, you did a good job. Okay.
Out of any of the characters that you've grown up with or drawn, who could you relate to the most?
Oh, man. Well, I'm kind of all my teachers would tell you I was a bit of a smart ass. I was a bit of a talkbacker. So I guess, you know, people forget, when I was a kid, Spider-Man, again, the Deadpool thing, he had a really lippy mouth. The comic book, Spider-Man, that's why when they talk about making him so young now and he should be flippant to all the Avengers, that's what he would be. Spider-Man, I digested a whole lot of. He's a great relatable character. I'd love to say Deadpool, but I did not submit myself for a Weapon X program and become some, you know, cancer freak. Well, he submitted himself because of the cancer and became a freak. Sorry. And my dad died of cancer, so don't go. Please don't. Liefeld's soft on cancer. Don't do that. So anyway, I'm just talking fast. So that's the question. Who else has got a question? Oh, hey. What's up?
Stanley likes to make movie appearances. Yes. Is that something that you would be interested in?
You know, it's funny. The question is, would I like to make a movie appearance? You know, I'm not sure about that. I talked to Robert Kirkman and Mark Millar. You've all seen their stuff, right? Walking Dead, has Robert Kirkman appeared? No. Mark Millar says he's not appearing in his movies. I'd think about it, and maybe it's happened, and maybe we'll find out next year. I don't know. But you know what? Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you something. A buddy of mine filmed a cameo. I'm not going to say his name, but he really set me straight. A buddy of mine filmed a cameo for a movie last year. And he told me, he said, Rob, I was so excited I filmed a cameo. My whole family, I told everybody, and we went to see the movie, and they cut my cameo. And I went, this is God speaking through this man to me. When the movie comes out, and if there's a shot of me on the wall somewhere, I guess, you know, I mean, it's just, it was a good lesson to learn. Don't say that you're in something if you're not in it. And you got to be in it, which means you got to make it all the way to the final cut. So, who knows? You know, but movie sets are fun, I think. So, I think I got one more, and then Tony's getting me out of here, and you've sat here very patiently. Red Lantern. What's your question?
I've always wondered, why did you give Cable like the coolest powers ever, but he never uses it?
Dude, I ask Marvel all the time. You know, I think when they see, I don't know, I think some guys over there aren't real crazy about Cable, and they don't use him. Maybe I ruffled some feathers, and when they see Cable, they see Rob Liefeld, and they don't like it. They're like, oh, there's that Liefeld guy that walked away and started Image Comics. And I have no idea why we don't see more Cable. He's always, no, I remember, trust me, X-Force #1, we reviewed the telekinetic powers. He's hovering obviously, I had a great time with him. He was very successful. There are fans to this day who say Cable's my favorite. People tell me all the time, Liefeld, you talk about Deadpool, who cares? I want Cable. I think they'll get their chance in the near future, and then honestly, that'll be crazy. Because people forget how ridiculously popular he was. But trust me, I watched Tom. You guys follow Tom Brevoort on Twitter? He's the editor of Marvel. He has a great Twitter feed. People ask him all the time, and he kind of lets people know, we're not that interested in Cable. Well, what am I to do? You know, dear Tom, it's Rob. I'm butthurt. Please do more with Cable. That would be like, ha ha ha, delete. So, you know, here's my thing. You just got to stay alive in this business. You got to stay alive. Don't get in a car accident. You know, don't get shot at, and stay alive, and there'll always be a new regime. And here's the last thing I'll tell you. I used to go to Hollywood meetings, kid you not, and these old men, I know it's not that I got things against old people, I got grandparents, I love them. But some of them, they've been in their business too long. And one guy's like, oh, tell me all about Youngblood. Youngblood is so much like the X-Men to me. I'm like, have you read Youngblood? Like, we want to make Youngblood our new franchise. I'm like, I'm not doing a deal with you. You've never read the comics. Now, when I get a meeting in Hollywood and I go to the Fox lot or I go to Paramount, I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have the X-Force Omnibus. They have the X-Force comics. They have New Mutants out for me to sign. And these guys are 33 or 34 years old. And like I grew up with your comics. I can tell you anything about your characters. The new guys, it's why all the movies have gotten so much better. It's because the people in control were legitimate fans who bought the comics and absorbed them, not these old men that looked at a sheet and said, Batman does well. We need to make more movies like Batman. No thanks. Hey everyone, thank you so much for spending an hour with me. Enjoy the amazing Las Vegas Comic Con.